People say it all the time. Your husband loves you so much, and they don't say it quietly. They say it with wonder in their voices. They say it like they're witnessing a miracle, like love that loud, that safe, that visible is rare. And every time I hear it, I smile. Not because I'm surprised, but because I remember. I remember what it was like before he came. You see, there was a time I wondered if love like this was real. Not just the movie kind, not just the fairy tales, but the steady, present, prayer-covered, God-ordained kind. There was a time I wondered if I was asking for too much. I thought, maybe I needed to settle. Maybe love didn't look like what I prayed for. But then he came, and I knew. It wasn't in the grand entrance. It wasn't in the fancy gestures. It was in the way he looked at me like I was already enough. The way he made space for my voice without needing to silence his own. The way he listened with his spirit, not just his ears. The way he covered me in prayer before he ever reached for my hand. That's when I knew this was different. And over time, the world began to notice what I had always known. They could see it in the way he speaks my name with honor, in the way his eyes search for me in a crowded room, in the way he never lets a storm hit me alone, in the way his love doesn't perform, it protects. And you know what, baby girl? It's not because we're perfect. It's because we're covered. Covered by grace. Covered by growth. Covered by God. People say, the way he loves you, I can see it. And sometimes I just nod. Because how do you explain a blessing like this? How do you explain the answered prayers that came wrapped in a man? How do you explain the healing that came through his patience? How do you explain the calm that found you in his arms when you used to only know chaos? You know what stands out most about him? He doesn't compete with my strength. He's not threatened by my voice. He doesn't shrink me. He supports me. When I rise, he celebrates. When I fall, he catches me gently. When I'm quiet, he leans in. When I'm loud, he doesn't flinch. He sees me as a partner. He doesn't want to fix me. He wants to grow with me. And that's what I wish for you, my daughter. I don't just pray that you find love. I pray you find peace in love. I pray your heart never has to beg to be held. I pray your dreams never have to die for a man to feel big beside you. I pray you find someone who honors your voice, covers your flaws in grace, and never asks you to become less so. He can feel like more, because I've lived the difference. I've known what it feels like to be loved in silence. And now, I know what it feels like to be loved out loud. And I don't mean with gifts or flowers or public displays. I mean loved in the kind of way that strangers can see it. And they know. They know it's real. They know it's deep. They know it's safe. They see the way he holds my hand with reverence, the way he watches me speak with pride, the way he protects my name in every room, even the ones I'll never enter, the way he never forgets that I am God's daughter first, his wife second. That, my love, is what I call being seen. Do you know what a gift it is to be seen? Not just noticed, but known. To be looked at and not just found beautiful, but understood. To be held not just for comfort, but with purpose. I remember once, in a quiet moment, he whispered, I know you've always had to be strong, but with me, you can rest. And I broke, because he didn't ask me to prove anything. He didn't need my accomplishments. He just wanted my peace. And that's how I knew this love was sent, not searched for, not forced. Sent. You know, love didn't find me in a perfect season. It found me while I was rebuilding, while I was dusting off the ashes of old heartbreak, while I was learning to trust again. And instead of making me feel behind, he reminded me, God's timing is still perfect. That's what I want you to hold on to, my daughter. That love isn't late just because it didn't come when you wanted. It's on time because it came when you were ready to recognize it, ready to receive it, ready to partner with it. And when they say, your husband loves you so much, I don't just smile because it's true. I smile because once upon a time, I asked God to prove he hadn't forgotten me. And instead of sending a sign, he sent a man who would carry my heart like it was fragile and powerful at the same time. A man who would lead me spiritually, love me completely, and lift me constantly. A man who sees me, shields me, sanctifies our home with prayer, and still holds my hand like we just met. That kind of love, my daughter, it doesn't just make you feel chosen. It reminds you you were never forgotten. Sometimes I think back to the girl I used to be, the one who questioned her worth, the one who tried to twist herself into someone more palatable, just to be loved. If only she could see me now. If only she could sit at my kitchen table, look into my eyes, and hear me say, you didn't ask for too much. You just asked the wrong people. I wish she knew love was never supposed to confuse her. It was never supposed to punish her for being emotional or passionate. It was never supposed to leave her second-guessing her reflection or rehearsing her responses just to stay safe. Because love is not control. Love is not fear. Love is not walking on eggshells to preserve someone else's ego. Love is being able to exhale. And I exhaled the day he entered my life. I remember our first prayer together. It was quiet. Just two people, eyes closed, hearts open, lifting each other to the one who created us both. And that's when I knew this wasn't about chemistry. This was about covenant. You see, my daughter, chemistry can be exciting, but covenant will carry you. Chemistry fades in storms. Covenant says, we're still in this together. And that's what your father did. He stayed. He made my heart his responsibility, not as a burden, but as a blessing. He doesn't just say, I love you when I'm beautiful. He says it when I'm broken, when I'm tired, when I'm moody, when I'm difficult, when I've forgotten how worthy I am. He never lets me forget it for long. That's how I know it's real, because love that only shows up for the highlight isn't love, it's performance. But love that shows up for the grief, the silent tears, and the dreams that still haven't come true, that's divine. So when people ask, how did you find him? I tell them the truth. I didn't. I healed. I grew. I stopped begging God to send me someone fast, and I asked him to send me someone right. And in his time, he did. Let me tell you what love looks like when God is in it. It looks like waking up and realizing your heart is no longer at war with itself. It looks like laughing freely, crying safely, dreaming boldly. It looks like Sunday mornings when he pours you a cup of tea before church. It looks like late-night conversations about the future you're building. It looks like his hand on your back when you're about to speak in public, reminding you, you've got this. It looks like silence that isn't awkward. It looks like trust that doesn't need proof every 5 minutes. It looks like arguments handled with respect, not destruction. It looks like prayer before pressure, peace before pride. That's what I live in now, and it's worth every season I waited. My love, I don't want you to just marry someone who says the right things. I want you to marry someone who does the right things. Someone who doesn't just tell you he prays for you, he actually does. Someone who doesn't need to dim your light to feel like a man. Someone who doesn't just fall in love with your potential, but protects your process. Because that's what your Father does. He knows I'm still growing, still healing, still learning. And not once has He made me feel like I had to arrive before I was worthy of being loved. That's what I pray for you. A love that meets you where you are, but gently walks with you into who you're becoming. You know what else? He doesn't try to fix me when I'm struggling. He listens. He leans in. He doesn't panic when I cry. He doesn't minimize my emotions. He doesn't shut down my fears. He reminds me that even on my weakest days, I am still a force. Even when I forget who I am, He doesn't. I remember a moment not long after we married. I was doubting myself, wrestling with insecurities I thought I had buried. I sat quietly on the couch, eyes low, mind loud, and he walked in, sat next to me, and without asking what was wrong, he whispered, "You don't have to earn this love. It's yours, freely, fully." I cried, because I'd never been told that before. Love had always come with conditions, with rules, with fear. But this time, it came with peace. And I want you to know, daughter, when the time is right, when God writes your love story, you will not have to fight to be believed. You will not have to audition for affection. You will be chosen and treated like it. The world may not understand the kind of love you carry, but they'll recognize the fruit of it. They'll see how you glow, how your eyes dance, how your laugh has come back, how your shoulders don't carry as much weight anymore, and they'll say it too, just like they say to me, "Your husband loves you so much." And you'll smile, because you'll know. You know what I've come to believe, my sweet girl? When we are loved well, we begin to love ourselves better. We speak softer to our own wounds. We begin to trust that we are not a burden, but a blessing. We stop apologizing for existing. And that's what happened to me. This love, His love, taught me that I wasn't hard to love. I was just surrounded by people who couldn't see me clearly. But He saw me, and not just the version of me I curated for the world. He saw the behind the scenes, the undone, the unfinished, the healing, and still He stayed. Not as a savior, but as a partner. Not as a hero, but as a human who chose me every day on purpose. That's the kind of love I didn't even know I needed until it found me. People often ask, "What makes your marriage work?" And while I could list things like communication, respect, laughter, and faith, the truth is, at the core of it all, is this. We honor each other's wholeness. He doesn't need me to shrink so He can feel tall. And I don't need to be loud to feel heard. We are both powerful without competing. We are both soft without shame. We are both seen without fear. That's what makes it work. That's what makes it last. You know, daughter, one day you'll look at someone and realize they don't calm the storm in me. They sit with me through it. And that's when you'll know it's real, because real love doesn't avoid hard moments. It walks through them, hand in hand. It doesn't flee when things aren't perfect. It leans in. Love is not afraid of your process. It doesn't need you to be healed to begin. It simply asks, "Can I walk with you while you grow?" And that's exactly what He's done. He's seen me cry from wounds He didn't cause, and still chose to stay. He's held my hand while I broke generational chains. He stood behind me when I needed to lead, and He stood in front of me when I needed protection, not because I asked, but because He saw it as His assignment. And I know that may not sound romantic to the world, but to me it is. Because what's more romantic than someone who doesn't just say, "I love you," but lives it every single day, through actions, through patience, through prayer, through presence. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me when I was younger. You don't need to perform to be loved. You don't need to compete to be seen. You don't need to shrink to be chosen. You don't need to dim to be safe. You just need to be you. And the right person will find you, not despite who you are, but because of it. They'll love the way your mind never stops thinking. They'll love the way your voice trembles when you're passionate. They'll love the way you care too much, feel too deeply, hope too wildly. And they won't just tolerate those parts. They'll treasure them. When you find that kind of love, daughter, guard it, not in fear, but in reverence. Guard it the way you guard a miracle, because that's what it is. And don't ever let the world convince you that it doesn't exist, because I am living proof that it does. I didn't find this love by chasing it. I found it by becoming it, by becoming the kind of woman who knew her worth, who walked away from half-loves, who waited, not perfectly, but patiently, who trusted that God's delay wasn't denial. And one day, when I least expected it, He came. And when they say, "Your husband loves you so much," what they're really saying is, there is something undeniably holy about the way you're treated. And that's the kind of legacy I want to pass on to you, not just a legacy of marriage, but a legacy of being loved well, a legacy of not settling, a legacy of choosing peace over pain, purpose over pressure, truth over performance, a legacy of waiting for the kind of love that leaves no bruises, the kind of love that reminds you you're not too much, you're not too broken, you're beloved. I used to pray for a man who wouldn't be afraid of my fire. I didn't want someone to tame me. I wanted someone to help me burn with purpose, not to try to extinguish my light. And I got that. He is not intimidated by my strength. He doesn't compete with my voice. He knows when to lead and when to follow. He knows when to speak and when to listen. That's what love does. It studies you. It discerns you. It doesn't rush to respond. It waits to understand. And I've never been more understood than I am in His presence. There are nights when I wake up in the middle of a storm inside me, not outside. And without a word, He reaches for me. He doesn't ask what's wrong. He doesn't offer empty solutions. He just holds me. And in that silence, I hear everything. I hear you're safe. I hear you don't have to explain. I hear you are not alone. I hear, even now, I choose you. And it is in those quiet moments I understand why God said it's not good for man to be alone. Because this kind of love, when it's holy, when it's healthy, when it's heaven-sent, it reminds you of Eden, of wholeness, of belonging. Daughter, let me tell you something sacred. Love doesn't just show up. It builds something. It lays bricks. One choice at a time. One act of kindness. One apology. One forgiveness. One shared dream. One silent prayer. And over time, what you build is a home. Not a house. Not just a place to sleep, but a sanctuary. And your Father is my sanctuary, not because He's perfect, but because He's present. Not because He always knows the right thing, but because He always returns to the right source, God. That is what keeps our love rooted, not compatibility, not common interests, not even romance, but reverence for each other and for God. There will be days, daughter, when you question if love like this is real. And I want you to remember me. I want you to remember the way I smile when they say, "Your husband loves you so much." Because it's not just a compliment. It's a testimony of prayers answered, of standards upheld, of patience refined, of God's hand, moving quietly behind the scenes. I want you to remember how I glowed, not from makeup, but from peace, from being poured into, from being protected, from being prayed over. I remember once we were walking through the airport and a woman tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "I don't know you, but I can feel how much he loves you. It's all over him." I nearly cried because I knew she was right, and I didn't need her words to confirm it. But it was one of those reminders. When something is real, people can feel it, even from across a room. That's the power of divine love. It carries a fragrance, an anointing, and it's not because of us, it's because of Him, God, because we built this on the rock, not the sand. We laid every fear, every wound, every past mistake at God's feet, and in return, He gave us something unshakable. You'll know it too one day. You'll look into His eyes and see yourself, reflected with love. You'll feel safe, not just when He's around, but even when He's gone. Because real love makes you feel whole, even in the waiting, even in the distance, even in the struggle. And the world will see it. They'll stop you in stores. They'll message you after you post a picture. They'll whisper to their friends when you're not looking, "She's loved," and you'll smile the same way I still smile every time someone looks at me and says, "Your husband loves you so much." Because it's true, and because soon, very soon, I pray you'll know exactly what that feels like too.